Scott Dochterman, theathletic.com, joins us. 365 Sports with Paul Catalina, David Smoak, and Craig Smoak. Scott, thank you very much. Rounds 2 and 3 tonight. What was your take after what occurred yesterday? There was a lot of drama, of course, with Shedeur, but what was the main story other than that, in your opinion?
I think in some ways everybody kind of went safe yesterday. I think people wanted the best player that fit their team, and it's not sexy to write about, but it's important. And it's not sexy to talk about, but it's the most important thing that a team can do. And that is, you take, in your neck of the woods, the Dallas Cowboys getting Tyler Booker. That he is a road grader. He's a Zamboni on the football field. That's something that Dallas needed with Zach Martin retiring, 5.5 years away from being in Canton, Ohio. So I think when you look at some of the other picks, it was kind of the same boat. And, maybe the thing that was most interesting to me is that I think getting for the Giants to get back into the first round to get Jackson Dart shows that maybe there isn't a lot of faith in what Shedeur Sanders can do. He's athletically, he's terrific. He's showed a lot of abilities at Colorado, but then there's been a lot of conceit, and I think that's something that maybe has scared away some teams or made them a little bit cautious here. And I would expect him to go, here in the second round because he is such an incredible talent. But I think with his dad saying that he shouldn't go lower than 4, and we know kind of how everything is shaped up there, it just doesn't surprise me that teams are kind of backing away if they're not really sure about him.
You really like Derek Harmon, obviously, and you like him over Walter Nolan. I saw that the way that you guys graded out. What was it about Walter Nolan to the Cardinals that kind of shocked you? Maybe him getting picked before for Derek Harmon.
Yeah, I think Derek Harmon, both in his days at Michigan State and then later at Oregon, he just kind of fits everything you want in an interior defensive lineman, and that's as a zero tech, whether he's in the A gap or he's over a guard. I think he's got pretty much everything you want. I mean, with Walter Nolan, I think he's really good too, and we're splitting hairs a little bit on this, but in some ways, I think the Ole Miss defensive line was so good, you start to wonder who was actually responsible for that. And I think there's a couple of players tonight that'll probably be taken as well that kind of that you start to wonder a little bit. Was it Walter Nolan? Was it Princely? Was it somebody else? And I think that's going to be, a question that they're going to have to answer. But overall, I think if you're looking to be more of a 4-down lineman up front, then maybe what you want is somebody like Walter Nolan. But if you're looking to be more versatile and maybe having somebody control the line of scrimmage in a 2-gap way, and Derek Harmon, his burst and his physicality and his strength and his power are all there. And so maybe that's why I thought Derek Harmon would have been my choice at that position.
Scott, a lot of people made the connection that a year ago, Ashton Genty was sitting there in Las Vegas by himself at a casino doing media day, basically, and now here he is, and he's the face of Las Vegas the last 24 hours, going to the Raiders. Your thoughts on Pete Carroll and company plucking him away and how he fits into the big picture there?
Yeah, just imagine that a couple of years ago, we were wondering if this position was dead. I mean, people were just saying no way should a running back ever go in the first round. And we had Bijan Robinson and Jahmyr Gibbs. I know I panned the Gibbs one, not because of his talent, but just that he was taken at 12 overall. But we're seeing the importance now of running backs because you look primarily at the teams playing a too high safety. Well, you can run on it. And if you have a running back, whether it's Saquon Barkley or Ashton Genty, who I think is probably the best running back since Saquon Barkley in college football, that you can attack that with your numbers advantage, and then you have an elite talent to go along with it. It's an advantage that you can't replicate in the passing game because it's physical and it's dominant and you're imposing your will. And I think that's what we're seeing. We saw last night with 2 running backs going high. I think Omarion Hampton is fantastic as well. In most years, he would have been the number 1 running back. And I think tonight you're going to see several running backs. Caleb Johnson from Iowa, the duo from Ohio State. I think, Cam Scattaboo, maybe a third rounder, but we saw what he was able to do at Arizona State, and an RJ Harvey from UCF. I mean, the list goes on for all the good running backs here. And I think you're seeing kind of the way the game kind of moves and back and forth, and it's always that chess match. And you're going to see at some point defenses saying we just can't get run on the way we are, and then they're going to go back to 8 in the box, and which is going to loosen up the secondary and make tight ends more prevalent in the game. Big picture.
Scott, the draft, the first round, if you have a first round pick, you surely can't screw it up. But sometimes some of them are not, they're thuds. They don't work out. It's almost like National Signing Day when you hear every coach say they got everybody they wanted. They got a great class. They don't always really are telling the truth. But in the first round, did anyone step in it, in your opinion? Was there anything in particular where you thought you saw a pick and you went like, man, that doesn't seem to make any sense?
The one that, and I gave it a lower grade, and I really cringed when I did it, was Emeka Egbuka going to Tampa at 19 overall. And it certainly is not reflective at all of his talent. He is a fantastic player. He's a really good blocker. He does so many different things. He did so many different things at Ohio State. And he's going to do really well in Tampa. The one thing I just kind of wondered with Tampa was you have some holes on your defense, especially in your secondary. And it might be the next pick, with Barron going to Denver. And I kind of thought if you two teams would have flipped your selections, then I would have felt so much better about both of them. Because I think, these two guys are elite talents who are going to start, play really, really well. But I thought Denver could use a little bit more on offense. They have some really good defensive backs. And then likewise, I thought Tampa could use some more on defense. And they have, Chris Godwin, and Mike Evans is still an elite talent. And I just thought that they could have used a little bit more. But overall, there have been a few times when I've really kind of been surprised, but there weren't that many reaches. I think there were maybe just a couple. And even then, when you got Philadelphia getting Jihad Campbell late in the draft and nobody's going up to get Shedeur at 30 or something like that, it just shows everybody took a little bit more of a risk-averse route. So it's kind of hard to pan them for that.
Scott, what do you think about the Jaguars getting aggressive, going to get Travis Hunter, and what that says about the new era of Liam Cohen and Gladstone, the GM who a lot of people didn't really know about, but has been a huge part of what the Rams have been doing the last few years. That's something maybe the Jaguars haven't done in the past very well.
No, I mean, the last time you've seen the Jaguars brass be a little bit excited was probably when they got Trevor Lawrence. Mm-hmm. And there was a reason why they got Trevor Lawrence. They were the worst team in the NFL. And I think he would have been he has been a good player, not a great player there. And maybe a little bit of a disappointment because he's had a couple of really big moments. But then the team around him has not been very exciting as well. And you're talking about one of the strangest markets to me in the NFL. Jacksonville, it's a huge college football town. It always has been. And for whatever reason, it just hasn't moved into that NFL area as much as it probably should have. And I think that's what they need to do. They need to gin up some interest. And if you're gonna make a splash, you just made it for probably one of the most versatile players we've ever seen in the history of college football, in Travis Hunter, who's able to play on both sides, obviously at an elite level, something we've really never seen in college football before. And now he's going to try to do it in the NFL. And I think for Jacksonville to bring in a player of that kind of excitement and interest, it provides them with an opportunity to kind of reconnect with their fan base and sell tickets, show off Trevor Lawrence a little bit, and then maybe get on TV a few more times, national TV anyway, on a Monday night game or two.
Scott, in the next 10 years, is there a draft where the first round's entirely made up of SEC and Big Ten players?
Yeah, I think it might happen. We're looking yesterday there were 26 out of the 32 were in those two leagues. And you look at the number of Texas players and Oregon players who were in it. And a year ago, they would have been considered Big 12 and Pac-12 players. So I think it's really possible. And then you throw on the transfer portal, which closes today for college football, and players that normally would have been at a Toledo or maybe a different, maybe not even an FCS team like North Dakota State, but somewhere else, they're going to say, well, you know what, I'm going to go up and get my $1 million and go play at Texas Tech, well I guess, or Texas and Texas A&M or Illinois or Iowa or some place like that, and get into the NFL that way. So it wouldn't surprise me at all if it gets to the high 20s, 30s, possibly all 32 picks are from those two conferences.
All right, you do a great job of covering the area, the whole country, but also Iowa State, Jalen Noel, and also Jaden Higgins. Do you think both go tonight, the wide receivers with Iowa State?
Yeah, I do. I think they both do. Jalen Noel has been tremendous. He really made a lot of key clutch plays for the Cyclones all year long. And Higgins is just bigger, and he also played really well. But I think what happened was when Jalen Noel went to the combine and his numbers, his workout was just off the charts. I think he had a 41 vertical and ran a sub 4.40. And so people really took a second look, and then they saw some of the plays he made to win games. He single-handedly was involved in beating Iowa, but in a 1-point game where they won by a 54-yard field goal in the game's final play. And then you look at Jaden Higgins and how big he is. Yes, I think Iowa State could have 3 even in the second round with Darian Porter, who is pretty raw at corner. He played wide receiver for 3 years and flipped over, but he had the second fastest 40 time, and he's 6'2" and long-armed, and I think he's got a chance to be one of those guys that some defensive back coach is going to say, I really need somebody like that, because if I work with him, that we've got something special, rather than, hey, we've already seen what his best is, and we don't think we can get more out of him.
If I told you a year ago that Luther Burton would fall in the first round, would that have shocked you?
It would have surprised me, no doubt about it. He's to me one of those players that there's about 5 players. Eamon Moore from South Carolina is one. I mean, I've been blown away that he wasn't in there. Will Johnson, has a little bit of a knee issue at Michigan. Otherwise, he would have been a high first rounder, in my opinion. He was hurt last year, but just an elite covered corner. And then I also think Luther Burden, is a guy that probably a top 10, top 12 pick. You thought going into this year, he's a lot like Ibuka. I think he's going to make somebody very, very happy in the top of round 2, somewhere in the first 5 to 6 picks. So, but there is another, there are quite a few other pretty good players that are around. I think this draft was interesting and unique to me because there's about 3 to 4 or 5 elite talents, and then there was like a bunch of guys that you wouldn't be surprised if Donovan Jackson went 24 to Minnesota, 15 to Atlanta, or 48, and I think that's what you've got. So you've got a lot of solid players coming up, probably throughout the second round.
Where does Jalen Milroe fit in tonight?
Mm-hmm.
What a great question, because I'm trying to figure out what's his best landing spot. And he is immensely talented, and he was like, I remember at the end of September, especially that game against Georgia, I thought, okay, he might be my Heisman #1, the way he played there and the way he played against Wisconsin the week before. And then he just kind of just fell off the face of the earth and didn't play very well the rest of the year. Is he somebody that Cleveland might want? Because it doesn't sound like Cleveland wants Shedeur Sanders, and is that a place for him? Will New Orleans take a look at him? I think he's the type of guy that you would want to get him, maybe in Vegas or something, where you've got a veteran and you can kind of work with him there and try to straighten out the wrinkles, because the talent is so immense. So if I were advising him, or if I had a chance to pick him in a certain spot, I think if he went with, say, Geno Smith to Vegas, whether it's the second round or even the third round, I think that would be a really good spot, because maybe in 2 years you might have him the way you had, like, say, Jalen Hurts when he was kind of up and down before he ended up in the second round.
Thank you, man. Appreciate the insight and the knowledge. Scott Dochterman, theathletic.com. We've had him on many times, college football, but also a combination of that, because college football players are the ones being drafted into the NFL. Paul's top 5 a little bit later in this